Hello, recently I was walking around my little neighbourhood here in the Chicago area and I picked up these Webster's reference books from a little library, which makes sense because on my channel I talk about American English a lot. This video is sponsored by SimpliSafe. After all, there's no safe like SimpliSafe. The first thing that I noticed about these books wasn't what was in them, but the condition that they were in. The thesaurus slightly creased along the spine, the dictionary well loved, spelling dictionary was blamed on a dog, and the book on grammar never used. Which tells me one of two things. Either the previous owner knew everything there was to know about grammar, or B, they lost interest when they realised it wasn't about the guy from Frasier. And then it got me thinking, as a British person living in America, that there are a lot of American grammar quirks that confuse us British people. And if you like it when a British man talks about the English language and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, here are 8 American grammar quirks that baffle British people. Since moving to the US, I've noticed occasions when Americans will use a different past tense to what I would have done in Britain. It's only on specific words, but the words that are coming to mind right now are the past tense of dive and drag. So for me, in the UK, the past tenses of those words would simply be dived, as in the footballer Neymar dived and made a general prat of himself. Dragged, as in Lawrence's last video, dragged on a bit, said nobody ever. Don't get me wrong, in America, dragged in this sense is commonly used. However, on my travels around Appalachia and even in the Midwest, I've also heard this. I drug my dog back to the house, which, as you can imagine, probably make me think about calling the ASPCA. That, according to the internet, is a non-standard use of the past tense, whereas dove, as in Lawrence dove into Lake Michigan, is apparently perfectly acceptable, and some Americans do say that. So let me know in the comments, do you say dove or dived? In fact, feel free to comment on all of the things in this list, including this. Both Britain and America have a strange relationship with prepositions. A preposition is one of those small but mighty words that shows the relationship between two things in a sentence, usually in terms of space, time, or direction. It tells you where something is, when something happens, or how one thing relates to another. Think of it as the word that glues a noun or pronoun to the rest of the sentence, like on the table, after dinner, or with enthusiasm. Sometimes in a given sentence, one country might utilize fewer prepositions than the other, and at other times they'll use more. Take, for example, get that Englishman off my screen. No, they're not talking about me, they're talking about Grand Moff Tarkin. It would not be unusual for Americans to insert the word of in there, as in, get that Englishman off of my screen. I don't think that in all my years of living in Britain, I ever heard a British person put these two words together in this way. And thinking about this, I don't think it's necessarily incorrect grammar, I just think it's redundant. A bit like when Americans say something like, hey Lawrence, where are the burglars at? As opposed to where are the burglars? And I know what you're thinking. Ooh, Lawrence, you don't have to worry about burglars. Oh, why's that? Because you have a home security system. Oh, that's right. I have SimpliSafe, the home security system that helps me protect me from break-ins and Uncle Toby. SimpliSafe isn't just another alarm system. It's designed to stop trouble before it happens. Their new Active Guard outdoor protection uses AI-powered cameras to spot suspicious activity outside your home. Real monitoring agents can then see and speak to anyone approaching, trigger alarms and spotlights, and even request urgent police dispatch. No other system gives you this level of active protection, both inside and outside your home. And SimpliSafe's technology knows the difference between a friendly neighbour popping by and an actual threat. So Suburban Sue is completely safe for now. I can arm or disarm the system right from the SimpliSafe app, even while I'm travelling. And the system is really easy. No long-term contracts. Monitoring plans start at just $1 a day. And you can install it yourself, or let professionals do it if you're lazy. I mean, it's no wonder that SimpliSafe has been named Best Home Security Systems by US News, World and Report for 5 straight years. And because I want you to have the same peace of mind, you can save 50% on a new SimpliSafe system when you sign up for a professional monitoring plan. Just visit simplisafe.com/lostinthepond to customize yours. After all, there's no safe like SimpliSafe. But then, as I mentioned a moment ago, Americans will sometimes present you with the opposite of what I've just said, and that's where they simply don't bother with prepositions, as in, Lawrence, I'll see you Friday. It is slightly cavalier, but on the plus side, it's quicker to say. In Britain, people would more likely say, Lawrence, I'll see you on Friday, although we don't party much anymore. In certain contexts, Americans will use the past simple tense in cases where British people will usually use the present perfect tense. And if all of these linguistic terms are too much for you because you just haven't had enough coffee, let me explain it to you with some real-life examples that never actually happened. Hey Tara, my wife, would you like some of this casserole that I made earlier? No, thank you, I already ate. Oh gosh, I hope she's not watching this. Point is, Americans will likely say, I already ate, and British people would say, I've already eaten. And I think both are fair game if you say them out. I already ate is true. I ate in the past. I have already eaten. When it crosses a line is when Americans like my wife's cousin Chad say things like, no thanks, I have already ate. Have you, Chad? Did you reading that off of a menu? And if you did, it might have been at a restaurant, which brings me on to this. Businesses in this country, just as in my country, will often tell you their business hours on the front of the building. But if you have to call for that information or physically hear it, they'll often say we're open Monday through Friday. And I sort of like that. I feel like it conveys the very same thing but in fewer words as from Monday to Friday, which is probably what we'd say in Britain. In fact, when I think about it, American food establishments have quite an interesting relationship with the word through, because a lot of fast food buildings have drive-thrus in which through is spelled like this. I've just realised that's spelling and not grammar, but it could be one of the reasons why the previous owner got in a rage with this book. Sometimes Americans will turn adjectives into adverbs. And I know I can already hear what you're saying, so shut up. British people do it too. As in, ooh, Lawrence is proper good at what he does, as opposed to properly good at what he does. The American version of that is to take the phrase really good and make it more casual and quicker to say. This guy's YouTube channel is real good, and it is now your job to share this video on social media with that exact phrase. Similarly, if you ask an American, how are you doing today? They might say, I'm doing good, which makes them sound very charitable. But pedants might argue that it should be doing well or doing goodly. No, not that. And we're going to finish today with quite an appropriate entry. Because I've spent the entirety of this video looking at the differences between British and American grammar, I thought it might be nice to look at the word different itself and how we use grammar to support it. So for example, if I wanted to compare my YouTube channel to Mr. Beast's, I don't know his first name, I might say something like, my channel is different to his channel, or my channel is different from his channel. We've got choice. In the US, particularly in formal writing, Americans usually do prefer different from. However, there is an alternative here that you don't usually hear in Britain, and that would be Lawrence is different than Mr. Beast. And now that I've said that out loud, it sort of feels unnatural. To me, it feels more appropriate to use the word than when you're comparing quality. So Lawrence's channel is better than Mr. Beast's channel is an example. He's trying to feed homeless people, I'm trying to feed my ego. That said, there is a small exception where even Brits might reach for different than. This happens when what follows is a clause rather than just a noun. For example, it's perfectly natural to say, things turned out different than I expected, because saying different from I expected would only make sense after 6 tequilas. Anyway, that's it for this video. Here are 11 American English words that baffle British people. You'll watch that video next. And until the next video, goodbye.